Shame wegen Shlit, the ganze Eulung like to have we have to come today to have the Rosh Yeshivas, Shlit, Yitzchok, Sorotzkin, give us the Dva Hashem, the Allah of our God, the come the Chag Pesach, Geulah.
Chazal tell us in Mesivta Rosh Hashanah, Nissan, Nigalu, Klal Yisrael went out of Mitzrayim and Chodesh Nissan, or Nissan Asidim Nigal, and we'll be Zoicha B'Korev to go out in the Chodesh of Nissan. Chodesh Nissan is a Chodesh that's Mesugal for Geulah. Yeshua that der Moshe Zatzal, when it came Soif Chodesh Nissan, and was I nicht ausgelesen geworden, so der Moshe broke down and hat angefangen weinen, because he was so sure that we were going to be Zoiche to the Geulah, that Chodesh Nissan, and he remarked after it went vorbei and we weren't Zoiche to Geulah, and he said, was ihm da gefällt? Klal Yisrael is a Fazoid da oibene Madrege. Ach Shedora for Geulah, what is being Ma'akev the Geulah? And Moshe said, weil sie noch da Machloikes bei Yisrael. Und eben sie da Machloikes in Yisrael, kann der Geulah nicht kommen. And we want to expound a bisschen, umreden, was es meint, und for was, and what do we have to do? The Chofetz Chaim Geulah was oisik very much in Shmir Saloshen, Avos Yisrael, and the Chofetz Chaim was masber that Heyois Chazal tell us the Iker Siva of Golus, why we're in Golus. Them sagt Lipsinas Chinom, Klal Yisrael, by the zweite Bayis, had Rachmana Litzlan Sinas Chinom, und Loshen Hora sagt the Chofetz Chaim. So the Rebbeinu Shalom saw that Klal Yisrael has to go in Golus, and he says that if we're not misaking the Shoirish and the Sibur why we went into Golus, so we can't expect to go out of Golus. So it's mutul aleinu to be misaking the Shoirish of why we went into Golus, which is Sinas Chinom and Loshen Hora. Now the Golus that we're in is called Golus Edom in Chazal. Edom signifies Esau or Rosh. These were the Romans were Zarish or Esau, and we got put into a finster, a bitter, a Golus, and Rahman al-Islam already 2,000 years in this Golus. Something happened in the last Kufa that made a big change in the Golus. People are not too aware of it, but it's brought down in the Zoyar, in Medrashim, in Kadmoinim, in the Goyim, in the many of the Gdolei Achroinim, Maral, they all bring out that in Ikvasa the Mashiach, the Rebbeinu Hashem was going to cause Roiv, Binyan, and Minyan of Klal Yisrael to come to Eretz Yisrael. And he says, we're going to come back under the Shlita of Koifrim. Tachas Shilton HaKoifrim B'Hashem. In the Zohar and in Chazal it says, who are the leaders, the Rosh of Edo in Eretz Yisrael in this Kufa? People that come from the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav mixed into Klal Yisrael, and in the Erev Rav were Amalekim, the biggest Soinei Torah, the biggest Soinei Emunah. Amalek is Lo Yori Elikim. That's the essence of Amalek. And the people that are going to be, State in Zoya, the people that's going to be on top, guiding and controlling Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, are going to be from the Zerah Amalek, from the Zerah of Erev Rav. And we have to get an understanding, so it's really an intensification of the Golus, that even in Eretz Yisrael like this, it's umas that are bechutz Eretz Yisrael that peinig us, But now the Eberster made that Amalek came into Eretz Yisrael itself. And they're the moishlim over us, and they're trying to force us and to do everything against the Torah, everything against Yiddishkeit. This is the matzav of what Klal Yisrael finds itself. And there were Geulah who spoke about it 100 years ago, what's going to happen. And slowly but surely it got clearer and clearer that this was the whole matorah of Zionism. And what it was the Amalekim that were coming there to be able to control Torah, Yiddishkeit, and be Oikeres Hadas. And this is the tremendous Shvira Golus that we're going through. Now, why did this have to take place? So we're going to give you a beautiful Michtav Melio from Rav Dessler, who gives us a tremendous, beautiful insight in what Golus in general means, and why the different types of Golus, and what's our tachlit and our tachlis in the time of Golus. The first thing he explains is that Golus is an Nisoyan. Hashem casts us into Golus. It's not Salmon Oynish, it's a tremendous Nisoyan. How are we going to react in a matzim of Golus? Now, first thing he explains, what does Sinas Chino mean? Sinas Chino means there's no taiva to do it. Most things people have taivas for why they do that. But Sinas Chino means pshuta k'mashmoi, for no reason. Now, what does it mean for no reason? If there's no taiva, why do you do it? The answer is, there's something that I believe in myself. Koichi v'oitzim yodi. Ani v'afsioi. I believe it's me and nobody else. There's nothing else. Lakila cholila. I'm it. This is the gaiva of Amalek, and this is the sina of Amalek. And this is what happened in Bayis Sheni by the end of the Golus, by the end of the Bayis. Sina is an outgrowth from Gaiva. When you have Gaiva, that's why Loshem Horror, when he comes to make his refuah, he has to do things to destroy his Gaiva. He takes the Eitzeres, he takes the Esau. It's all because the Gaiva of a person causes a person to have Sina, that I can't stand you. I don't want you. You're in my way. Sinas Chinam is a concept. I can't be soivel another person because of my gaiva. This is the concept of what it means, and this is the concept of Esau. Esau's mitzias is koichi v'oitzim yodi oseli asachayel hazeh v'aniv anit v'afsioi, and there's nothing else besides me. So he explains in the first Golus in that Klal Yisrael were in, it was taiva. The nations that capture other nations generally do it because they want to plunder them, they want to take them for, be balabatim on them to get their services, they should be avodim for them. So they're doing it for their pleasure, what they want to get out of them. Esau has a different agenda entirely. He wants to be a moishel. That's the concept of Esau. I want to be the leader, the moishel. I control you. I have gaiva and I have ritzicha. Why do I kill? Because who are you? You're nothing. If you're in my way, I don't want you. I don't like you. I feel that you're a steer to me, so I want to kill you. Now, Rav Dessler brings that to prove that the malice of Esau is Ritzicha, is because we know the Yalkut tells us, and it's a medrash, when the Eberster wanted to give the Torah to Klal Yisrael, he first went to all the nations of the world. And when he came to Esau, they asked him, what does it say in the Torah? And you know what the Rebbeinu Shalom told them? The Rebbeinu Shalom says, Loi sirtzach, don't murder, don't kill. They said, we can't do that because we come from Esau, and the whole mahus of Esau is Ritzicha. Esau, the Gemara tells us, Mababasa killed, he was a killer, and Esau, since we come from Esau, we can't take a Torah that tells us not to kill. So if Dessler brings out this particular Yalkut to show that this is the essence of Esau. We're going to bring you a fascinating Yalkut, which he doesn't bring, but it's a Yalkut in Tehillim Daf Kapitel Yud Dalet, which gives us a new understanding of who Esau was. The Pasuk says, Omar Novel Ein Elokim. There's a novel that says he denies there's a Borei Olam. He denies there's a God. Now, who is this novel, this inconsiderate person? A novel is a kofi toiver. The Eibusher gives him everything, and he claims there's no God. Who is that? So the Medrash says, Esau. Esau denies that there's a Borei Olam. This is the essence of Esau. Now listen to what the master plan of Esau was. Everybody thinks he was such a big mechaber his father. He wasn't really a big mechaber of his father, because he thought he'll gain from him the brachas. The minute he saw he doesn't get the brachas, he decided he has to kill his father. And he had a master plan how he's going to kill his father. He says, it doesn't look good if I kill my father. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to my shver. I'm going to go to my uncle. Who was his shver and uncle? Yishmael. And he says Yishmael is a brother to Yitzchok. Okay, Yishmael's a brother to Yitzchok. I'm going to hire him to kill Yitzchok, to kill my father. So the first plan was that Yishmael, Esau had a master plan. Yishmael should kill Esau. Now, kill Yitzchok. After Yishmael will kill Yitzchok, I'll see to it that I'll kill Yishmael. So he says, I'm going to kill Yishmael. I can't kill my father, but I'm going to kill my shver and my uncle who killed my father for me. After I kill Yishmael, the next thing is I'm going to kill my brother. I'm going to kill Yaakov. So he had a master plan of Yitzchok to kill first his father, Duch Yishmael. Then he's going to kill, the Yalkut says, then he was going to kill Yishmael, and then he's going to kill Yaakov. Why did he want to do it? Listen to the oyster of the Yalkut. Vani irash es kol oilom kuloi levadi. I'll be the supreme ruler on the world. These are people in my way. I'm going to get rid of them all. And once I get rid of them, ani irash es kol oilom kuloi levadi. So Esau is a Ritzeach that you can't imagine what kind of a Ritzeach he is. And this is what's the Nazis, that they were roisting to end, no end, because this is the meat of Esau. Ritzeach, killing every person you could possibly kill, didn't make a difference. Yidden, Goyim, they killed for sakes. They wanted to get rid of Yidden, that hurt them the most. But they wanted to kill and kill and kill. So Esau's midah is to kill Ritzicha. Where's it coming from? Gaiva. Ani v'av sioi. There's nobody besides me. So anybody else in the world, I have to be the controller over the world. We had a strange phenomenon. The whole world gets shaken up. B'shas Kriyas Yamsuf, b'shas all the nisim. Shomu amim yergozun. Chilochas yoishrei peloshes. Everybody got gitzited from the Rebbeinu Shalom. There was one single nation that did not get any iota of getting trembling from the whole gilul that the Rebbeinu Shalom did. Who was that? Amalek. Amalek says in the Pasuk, Lo Yorei Elikim. Now, why was Amalek Lo Yorei Elikim? The answer is in this Yalkut. Omer Novel Ein Elikim. He denies because he believes in manpower. He believes in himself. I'm it. Ani v'av siyoid. So he believes in himself, and he believes that he is his source of success, and he has the power of the world, and he can boss the world. And ani irish is kol oilam. So if that's your tchuna, if your tchuna is gaiva to the highest degree, so then you don't see a boyer oilam in the bria, and you can't blow yorei elikim. Now let's understand something. Haman was a very strange person. Haman comes from Zerah and Amalek, and he makes himself a god. Why did he make himself a god? He made himself an avodah zarah, and the whole world has to bow down to him. So Kol Oam is Karmin u'Mishtachvim L'Haman. He made himself an idol as he is a god, and everybody in the world has to bow down to him. And then he makes exile, Lahashmid, Laharagul Abed. He wants to kill everybody. This is Amalek, this is Esau. The essence of Esau is Ein Elokim, and the essence of Esau is Ritzicha, to kill everybody because of the gaiva that he walks around. Haman was the biggest Baal gaiva that you could imagine. He was such a Baal gaiva. Now listen to a pasuk that's mind-boggling. In Esther, we have a pasuk that Haman starts telling his whole mishpacha, you know something, I'm on top of the world. Look how much covet I get, and everybody bows down to me. Hitloy HaMelech, Nisoy Alasorim, Ve'avdi HaMelech, Koinu Mishtachvim. And then he says a very funny thing. V'chol zeh einenu shoveli. And it's all worthless. Everything that I have, a whole world is bowing down to him. A whole world is singing his praises. Everybody looks at him as the world's mightiest leader. And what happens? One single Yid doesn't bow down to him, and that's Mordechai HaTzadik. And when that happens, what does he say? Calls that everything that's happening is worthless to me. Now, how do we understand that? It sounds crazy. A person has a whole world, so one Kleine Yidol doesn't bow down to him, and that's what it means. Not it bothers him. The kol zeh einenu shoveli, it's worthless. Everything that I have has no significance and no value whatsoever. How do we understand? You know what it was? He's totally destroyed everything that Haman was saying he is. Haman was saying, I'm God. And there was one person who stood up and says, you're not God. I'm not bowing down to you. I deny that you're God. And there's one little Yid that doesn't bow down to him. And if he thinks, Aniva Afsioid, that there's nothing else besides me, and he's koifer in the Rebbeinu Shalom like Esau, Ein Elokim, if there's one person who says something the opposite, it destroys everything he's there for. He thought he has the world under his control. And he hears it's called Oilam Kulei Levadi. And now he gets himself a patch and put him in the Grestamos. There's a denial. So all the papers are saying, you know something? Is he talking the God of the world? Is he the one that can smoishel akol oilam? Or he's not? Oh, Mordechai says, no. And he sees that, he eats him up. He cannot live with Mordechai. He has to get rid. I only have to get rid of Mordechai, but his meat is Ritzicha. And once his meat is Ritzicha, Lahashmid, Laharim, Lahabed, it's Kol HaYehudim, to kill everybody out. This is the essence of what Esau is, and Amalek is the biggest mushchis of the whole Zarish of Esau, and Amalek was the one that signified in the biggest degree of Kvira, of Ritzicha, of Gaiva. And here comes Haman from dancing from Zerah Amalek, and he chaps him apole from one little single Yid, destroys everything that he was trying to personify. The Michtav Eliyahu, when he talks about Golus, he explains, when Hashem puts us into a Golus, it's not an oynish. Everybody should give us other oinshim. It's a tremendous test for Klal Yisrael. This is what we're here for in Golus, to see if we can fail the test. And lately we've been failing it for so many years. And we're in this Golus to test us if we're going to somehow know what to do when we're in this Golus. And he says, the Iker Nisoyin of the Golus is to stand up against the Hashpah of the Golus, against the Machshavas and the Derech HaChaim that you're going to be thrust in. And if you could stand up with the strength against the Hashpahs of where you are thrown into, so then that is how we were Mekayim, the Tafkin and the Taklis of the Golus. So he says as follows, every Golus is Mida connected Mida, so to speak, of what the chet of Klal Yisrael is and what they have to be masakin. And the purpose from what the Rebbeinu Shalom does is to awaken in you to recognize what you have to be masakin. So the Rebbeinu Shalom takes your pram and your chisorin and thrusts you into a place where this is the chisorin of the ummah that you're going to be thrust into. And he says that the Rebbeinu Shalom wants to see how you're going to combat the hashpoya that you're getting from the ummah that you're thrust into. And if the Yitzchok tries to entice you and you stand up with strength against it, then this is the ikar of what your purpose was in going into Golus. And he says, when Klal Yisrael goes through a certain downfall, and they get to a point that the Rebbeinu Shalom sees that we're not going to come to do tshuva on our own. So the Rebbeinu Shalom says, I can't leave you in the matzav you're in Eretz Yisrael because you're not going to come to tshuva on your own. I have to put you into a matzav of Golus. Now, we, in the second bias, which had a chet of sinas chinam, which sinas chinam shirish is gaiva, Klal Yisrael had a gvisa gaiva, which caused them to have a sinas chinam, that they felt they're it, and they felt that they could boss people and kill people and do whatever they want, like the Gemara says when they did these types of things. Then the Rebbeinu Shalom takes them to a place that this is the pagam of that place. Now, it seems strange. The Rebbeinu Shalom puts you in that place, and this is the place that's good for the worst place for a Baal Gaiva, a person who has seen it, because he's putting you into Rome, into Edom, which this is their Mida. Their Mida is this. The answer is he wants you to see crystal clear what the pagam is. Like this, you read yourself eye, you don't see that you possess that Mida, and you can't do tshuva. But when I throw you into a place and you look at those people and you see Gefalt, look how terrible these people are, how gefällig they are. They fall to such a level, to such a scene, to the degree that they're koifer in the Rebbeinu Shalom, and they're so mushkes with gaiva and ritzicha. So you're supposed to get a shtickle isoyrus, so why am I doing here? Why am I here? Why did the Rebbeinu Shalom throw me in this? He threw me in it because I'm putting you into an isoyin. Take a look and see what the nations of the world that I'm putting you into are. And if you could strengthfully fight it, so it's going to take a big fight on your part, but if you're going to do it, it's a pneumius diketshuvas of Gessler. If you're going to do it in a matzav like that, and you're going to have to fight against Umas Oilam, which this is to the highest degree of sinah and gaiva and ritzicha, and you could still stand up against them, so then you can sort of eradicate the shirish of the chet. So he explains and he says as follows. Amalek and Esau have a tremendous chutzpah. And what's the chutzpah of Amalek? That they have this guy to deny the kfir in the Rebbeinu Shalom. Such a chutzpah to go against Nazis, against the Eibishter. And the ummah that we're thrust in, so when we have sinas chinam and gaiva, that's a gewaltige, terrible thing that you have as a chutzpah klapi mala, like Chazal say, who are you to be about gaiva? And if you have gaiva, that's a simon that it's Rahman al-Islam, it's a chesorn that you believe in yourself. And the Eibishter puts us in this ummah that it has such a chutzpah, and the Gemara tells us that in Ikvis of the Mashiach, in the end of the Golus, chutzpah yaski. Now what it means, chutzpah yaski, Zoktav Dessa means we're going to be put into a matzav of Amalek. And Amalek is the greatest mechutzofim that there is in the Bria, and that's what Hashem puts us into that nisoyin, into that matzav. Are we going to be able to stand up against the chutzpah of the Umas Oilam that are koifer in the Rebbeinu Shalom? And he explains, why did the gaiva come out in such a proportion in the Zman like today, Why did the Geulah? He explains that the Geulah of the Goyish Welt is knowledge, technology, that they've grown over the years to make such tremendous strides of inventions. And the Chochmah that's there in the Goyim has continuously grown and grown to a point that every time they succeed in making new things, new inventions, every invention that they make gives them another Geulah. And it makes them believe in the power of man. And they believe, look how much we can do. Look what we can make. We can make the biggest destructive materials. We can destroy a world. We have control of the world. I can bomb out the whole world and I have the balus on the world. So that's what every Moishel boasts about that he has. I have all the money in the world. I have all the Chochmah. It continuously progressed to a point that the Geulah continued to continue door after door till it finally came to the Soif that the Geulah reached the epitome of Geulah of the Umas Olam, and that's where we got into Eretz Yisrael. And the last phase of the Golus is, I'm going to make sure that the Rosh are the biggest Bali Geulah. They believe we have the best army. We conquered Eretz Yisrael. We did it. And we can keep it, we can care for it, and we can guard it. And nobody can do anything to us. And they totally, Rachmana litzlan, deny there's a boirei olam, there's a boirishom. And they stand up, so this is Odessa speaking already years, much 67 years ago. They're going to fight Torah, Emunah, Yerushalayim, because this is the essence of what they stand up for. The homitzias of Esau, of Amalek, is Layori Elikim. To deny the Torah. They came to fight the Torah when we went out of Mitzrayim, that we shouldn't accept the Torah. And they're now, again, trying in the Soif Golus to eradicate the ganze Yiddishkeit of Klal Yisrael. So we're standing in Eretz Yisrael under a massive Neure. They're fighting the Golus that people don't verstehen. But this is their essence. What they're doing is because they're from Zera Amalek. And this is brought out full in Medrash after Medrash, that they're from Zera Amalek, are the ones that Hoyu Tzoreh the Rosh. Who's Tzoreh Zok Goyen? Who's our enemies? The leaders of Klal Yisrael in the Ikvus of the Mashiach. So Klal Yisrael is put into the last step of Golus, that the Rosh is going to show us, look at what a person could become, how low a person could stoop. He can get to such a Geulah, and he believes everything is me. I'm the controller, I run the world. It's up to me. And that's the way they're running the country. They're going to step on from Eden. They're going to push them into whatever. They'll kill them. They don't care anything about them. So who do they take for soldiers? If they try to force them and put them in the front lines, Kiyodua, they take the Fruma soldiers and put them in the front, they should get killed. This is the whole master plan of Zionism, Zionism, Amalek, Esau. This is what Klal Yisrael has to go through at the end of Eretz Yisrael. And if we'll stand up with Mesiras Nefesh, and we're going to fight them tooth and nail, and we're not going to give in, and we're going to say, no, there's a Boirei Olam, and there's Torah is eternal, and Torah is what makes a Yid, and this is Emunah, and there's a Boirei Olam, then we can go out of Golus. So the object of the Golus is to put you in a matzav of looking and seeing, don't be such a Bal Geulah. Don't think I niva afsioid, because when you think like that, then Rachmana litzlan, look what happens to you. You become such a mushkis and such a Rosh, you're such an achzer, you'll kill people, you'll do whatever you want, just who cares, I'll kill you. I don't care about killing a from Yid. Why? Because I have a niva afsioid. Now Rabbi Chonin has a velt of Maimorim about Ikvus and Mashiach, all about the Erev and all about Amalek, it's going to be the leaders. But he says something that in the last Kufa, Klal Yisrael is going to fall prey to different types of Avodah Zoros. And we're going to have to destroy all those Avodah Zoros. Just like when Klal Yisrael went out of Mitzrayim, Klal Yisrael had to destroy Avodah Zorah. Medrash says, why did they have to take the Korban Pesach? The Korban Pesach was the Avodah Zorah of Mitzrayim. And the Eibishter told Klal Yisrael through Moshe, make sure they shecht Avodah Zorah of Paro of Mitzrayim. Moshe says, how can I do that? They're going to kill us. They're going to kill us if we kill their God. But the Eibishter said, if you're not going to show a Mesiras Nefesh, you're not getting out of Mitzrayim. And we had to show a tremendous Mesiras Nefesh that we're ready to shecht their gods, and then we were zoichet to go out b'schus the dam of Pesach. So too, Zocher B'chonon, and it's really a Yalkut that says that we're going to have to do the same things that Klal Yisrael had to do to go out of Mitzrayim. We constantly, when it comes this skuf of the year, every year has to go out of Mitzrayim. And this is going to be a necessity for us to go out of Mitzrayim and also to get to the Geulah Ashida. So he explains, what does Avodah Zorah mean? So he says people don't really understand what Avodah Zorah is. Avodah Zorah means anything that's not coming from the Ribono Shel Olam. Anything that you believe, if you believe there's a course of events, there's a Sibah and a Mesuvim, there's a Teva, then you're a koifer. That's Avodah Zorah. If you believe koichi voitzim yoni oseli asachayel azeh, that's another type of Avodah Zorah. And he explains this is what happened in the last 100 years. There was communism, that Yidden gravitated to communism because they thought they could hold on to this and this will save them from the persecution of the Goy. Zionism, socialism, all the different isms are all types of Avodah Zorah, Dr. Mochonon. And this is what had to become this battle. Socialism had to become bottle. Communism had to become bottle. All these Avodah Zorahs, the Rebbeinu had it, that Klal Yisrael should recognize that there's only one Borei Olam, and that everything is coming from the Rebbeinu Shel Olam. And he writes over there that just like we went out of Mitzrayim by destroying Avodah Zorahs, we're going to have to destroy all different types of Avodah Zorahs. Now, Reb Chatzkel Levenstein, the Mashgiach, the famous Mashgiach in Ponevezh, writes that, you know something, when you don't have your complete trust on the Rebbeinu Shel Olam, if you think, L'moshel, Trump is going to do something for us, that's kfir, that's Avodah Zorah. Because everything is totally in ganzen with the Eibishter. So he says, a choiser bitochen amiti ba'kodesh Baruch Hu, that you think, because what's Trump? Boasting, the biggest Malgaiva that ever came around, and says, it's me, it's I run the world, I have the power to do everything I want, and he's trying to conquer the world. They're going to believe and be toiling that is another Avodah Zorah that the Rosh was giving us to stand up against. In the end of the Ikvasida Mashiach, he's from Amalek. He's maybe not from Amalek, but maybe he's just from Zera Esau. But that's Elohim, and this is what it is. And this is all different. How the Rosh is putting us to test. Are you going to fall prey for all that? Or are you going to have a complete trust in the Eibishter? Yeah, and the Dalit says, in God we trust. But we know it's all baloney. In God we trust. What kind of talking do people have when they see Trump comes into office? All of a sudden now your heart gets gladdened and you start thinking, oh, now he's going to do things for us. Everything has to be attributed to the Rebbeinu Shel Olam. And he says, people think, the Dessa writes, people think that the army got us into Eretz Yisrael. It's no such thing. The army didn't get us into Eretz Yisrael. It's Hashem Ish Mohammed. All the battles, don't think you have ammunition and we're the ones that are guarding us. It's Hashem Ish Mohammed. The Gemara says, Mohammed Ani Osisi. All Mohammed, so they're trying to be koifer, so they say, we came to Eretz Yisrael with our power, when in essence it was Hashem who brought them there to make this Nisoyin. And Hashem now is continuing the Nisoyin that today should look like they're powerful, and then you should see and recognize, don't fall prey for that all, and recognize that it's not them, But it's the Eibishter who does everything and puts us in place in order that we should be able to go through this tremendous galus. Now I'm going to just bring you a couple examples that people don't understand this, that Shloimeh and Munei Yisrael believe in themselves. Koichi v'oitzim yodi oseli azachayel hazeh, which is a type of a kvira that you believe in yourself. I'm going to tell you a few stories. I'm going to tell you a story hazeh. There was a Yid that had davened meirdik b'kavone. He used to daven langish menesreis, and then when he went to work, he was very corrupt in the business world. And a few people came to the Satmarov and asked him, "What's the pshat with him? When he's in the Beis Medrash, he looks like the Grested Tzaddik. He davens such tremendous long tefillas with kavonas, and then when he goes out, he all of a sudden changes and he becomes now a person that is corrupt in his business." So the Satmarov told him, "What do you think he's mechav in his tefillas?" Listen to what the Chassidus said. He said, "You know something?" He tells Abba Nisham, "You know, I'm a wise person. I'm a big chacham. And I know how to conduct my business. And I could, Baruch Hashem, be matzliach in my business." So he says, "But Ribono Shel Olam, I know you could be mafri on me." So he davens to the Eibishter, "Don't mix into my business." And he makes a tefillah to the Ribono Shel Olam. It's not a joke. This is berach, what people believe in. So he tells the Ribono Shel Olam, "Some of what's your kasha, why he acts like that?" The reason why he acts like that, because he believes he's bekoyach to do whatever he wants, and he's the boss, and he's this. No, he's davening to the Ribono Shel Olam, "Don't mix into my geschäft." You know, in 2009, there was a tremendous economic depression, and many Gevirim lost all their parnosseh. There was somebody who lost his parnosseh, and he used to be a big Baltstoker, and he didn't know what to do. People are going to be knocking on his doors. His family's going to expect that they should live on a high standard, and he can't even put bread on his table. To him to go to Toim Shabbos, it's a bizoyim for him. What should he do? So he decided he's going to go away to a tzaddik, a golus, and he's asking him, give him an eitz, and what should he do? So the tzaddik and the golus tells him, "What's your problem? Daven to Ribono Shel Olam. Ribono Shel Olam is zonu, mefarnes, umechalkel, as kol oil." Don't you say that in your benching? Azonis oilam kuloi, b'chein, b'ches, b'rachtim, hunoisomechem, b'chol moser. Daven to Ribono Shel Olam. He tells the golus, "That's going to be much too hard for me, because all these years I was managing on my own. I never had to come on to the Eibishter. You hear kfir? This is an Erlich Yid. I'm talking about somebody different than us. An Erlich Yid said to the tzaddik and golus, it's going to be too difficult for me to start davening to the Ribono Shel Olam, humbling myself to the Ribono Shel Olam. Ribono Shel Olam, time to give its ass in. Because all along I was the one who did it. I was the supplier. I was able to do it." You know, there was a bocher that learned by a Yoshev Bear, Soloveitchik and Brisk. One day he got his Cyrus that he's going to rely totally on the Ribono Shel Olam. Here, this great shmuasin that we talking in the Eibishter. So he decides he's not going to do anything to get parnosseh. He's not going to get anything to get food. And there's somebody who knew him, and he sees that today he's not doing what he usually does. So he came over to him and tells him, "What's shocking you? I know that normally what you do is you go and you buy food and you do things." He says, "I decided to change my mahalach, and I decided to put my trust in the Ribono Shel Olam, and I know the Ribono Shel Olam will take care of me." So he's watching this guy. A couple hours later, he comes back and he sees again the guy doesn't have what to eat, and he doesn't have what to do. He doesn't have anything. So he says, "What's with you? You're going to starve. What are you doing?" So he told him, "I'm not worried." Finally, he comes back to him towards near the end of the day, and he says, "I'm going to invite you to my house for a Seder. I see that you didn't have what to eat, so I'm going to invite you to come eat by me." After he gave him to eat, he decided he's going away to the Rebbe of Yoshev Bear and telling him he has a funny Talmud and that he's a little Yotzamidaita. He thinks the Ribono Shel Olam is going to take care of him, and he did. And you see, nobody takes care of him. And it says, so Rosh told him, you're the Shliach of Hashem. That's exactly what the Yitzchok wanted. The Yitzchok wanted that he should pass the test and be on the Nissan that he doesn't know where his food is getting from. And then, when he passes that and he still stays strong, fast, that's when you're going to give that. You know, the show once overheard a poor Yidden speaking to each other, and one guy says to the other one, you know, I'm clearing, should I say Parshas Haman after davening, or I shouldn't say Parshas Haman? So the other guy says, you know something? I've been saying it already for 50 years. He was an elder Yid, the guy who he approached, and he said, but I have to tell you something. I can't advise you to say Parshas Haman, because I never saw that it did anything for me. I didn't see by me davening 50 years, Parshas Haman, it did anything for me. So Matisho overheard the conversation. He happened to know these people, and he walked over and he gave them such a mapola, and he told them, you know something? You could have been a pauper, you could have been mechusar lechem, you could be a makabitz nedovis, and you didn't, and you lived very comfortably. Maybe you weren't the richest person in the world, but you have Baruch Hashem enough to live on comfortably. Where do you think that came from? That's where you got it, and you talk such sprach, and you say Parshas Haman doesn't help me davening to the Rosh. That's where you get your this. Now listen to the Ramban in the Parshas Boy. The Ramban says a whole bunch of things about what's the whole tachlis of the Nisi Yitzias Mitzrayim. But the Ramban emphasizes a bunch of times that the purpose is to come to Hoidah. Now, Hoidah has two connotations. Hoidah means thank, and Hoidah means to admit. And if you learn the Ramban writes, the purpose of all the Nisim is to admit. Now, what do you have to admit? You have to admit that the Eibusher created the world. You have to believe that Hashem created you. You have to believe from the Nisim Agdolim that everything that a person happens in his life, everything is a nest from the Ribono Shel Olam. And it sounds strange. You have to admit who you're admitting for. What you were thinking differently, that the Ramban writes, you should admit that there's a Boiro Olam. Admit that everything comes from Hashem. Admit that Hashem created you. Rabbi Yerucham, the Mashgiach Rabbi Yerucham writes, from this Ramban, it's a tremendous high madrega to recognize that Hashem created us. And he says the teva of an Adam is to believe he created himself. This is the teva of a person. People walk around believing, I made myself, I'm a self-made man, and I'll give you answers how to go about it, and this is what a person walks around. Now the emphasis, everybody believes in Hashem, but Paroi walked around with thinking, Li le'oiri v'ani assassini. Now do you think that Paro was a Yochid B'doiri? No, he wasn't a Yochid B'doiri. This is every single person believes in that same way as Paroi, that I made myself. Now Zameir Dike Chofetz Chaim and Parshas V'eira. Paro goes out every morning to the Nile, and there he goes out. Why did he go out to the Nile? So the Medrash says because he used to relieve himself there, because he claimed he's a god, and a god doesn't have to go out. So So Paro used to go out, and the Rosh told him to catch him in the act, go out to the Nile and show him that he's not a god. And you know he goes out, so because he used to make himself a lawyer, and he says he doesn't have to go out to his Nikovim. So Chofetz Chaim asks a kasha. Why did Hashem create a person in such a disgraceful way that we have to go out? Hashem could make a person, he doesn't have to go out. When we ate the one, we didn't have to go out from eating the one. But it's not that we have to have such a terrible, disgraceful thing of going out, of having to relieve yourself. So the Medrash says the Eibusher made it for Chira Melech Tzor. Why Chira Melech Tzor? It's a nevuah that Yecheskel Hanovi said to Chira. Chira was a guy who boasted he's like a god. just like Paro, and he thought he's it, and he thought he's a god. So the Rosh says, when I created the world, I made Nikovim in a person because of Chira Melech Tzor. That Chira Melech Tzor should not go around boasting that he's a god. And if he sees that he has to go out, so he'll recognize that he's not a god. Obviously, he's a Shofel Ikabriya. So the question number one is, so why does every person have to go out? The Rosh should make it, that Chira Melech Tzor should go out. Okay, so maybe the Rosh didn't want to do it. But listen to Ha'orah from the Heilige Chofetz Chaim. If the purpose of going out is that a person shouldn't believe that he's a god, why doesn't it suffice to go out once in 30 days, once a year, and if you have to go out once a year, so that should be enough for you to realize that you're not a god. So he says, why do you have to go out every day and sometimes a few times in the day? This is a horror of the Chofetz Chaim. Why did Hashem make it that people have to go out every day? Listen to the words of the Chofetz Chaim. The gaiva of a person is so great. And the person, if he'd only go out once a month, 29 days of the year, he'll think he's a god. It's short-lived. And so what do Rebbeinu Shem have to do? Every single day you need a reminder that you're not a god. It's not you. And he says, but the Teva, the Chofetz Chaim, is that a person thinks that he's tremendous and he's great, and therefore we have to work on this to get this hakor and not to think in ourselves. Now, there's a beautiful medrash about the Mizmor of Mizmor L'Soida. What was the purpose of this kapitel of Mizmor L'Soida? It's a kapitel Kofen Tilling. There's a kapitel, the four people who were in Sakonis Nefoshes, and the Eibishter helped them. The Hochi HaMidbar, or the Ayam, the Eibishter helps them. After they come and they're saved, they give a tremendous thanks to the Rebbeinu Shalom. So that they're the ones who have to say this thanks. Now, what are they saying in this Mizmor L'Soida? They make a tremendous proclamation. It sounds like a strange proclamation. They says, Du'u, realize, recognize Hashem Hu Elokim, that the Rebbeinu Shalom is the Baal HaKoiches, Hu Asanu V'lo Yanachnu. Now there's a Korean eksiv, the Medrash says, Hu Asanu V'lo Yanachnu, Hashem made us and we have to serve Him, but V'lo Yanachnu with an aleph and not us. So you know what the Medrash says? Medrash says as they came to the realization that they were walking around thinking that they're it, like Paroi. This is the proclamation. When people go through a Torah, all of a sudden they change their lifestyle. Till then, they're ready to live like as if they take care of themselves. Because they think they have their health, they have their wealth, they have their panos, they have their shidduchim, and whatever they think, and then when the things don't go right, all of a sudden a change happens, and if they get a Yeshua, then they daven to Hashem and they make kabbalas, and then they recognize it's all the Rebbeinu Shalom. And this is what they proclaim because they get to their akor. But the kasha is, every single person says this Mizmor L'Soida every day. Why are we saying this Mizmor L'Soida every day? The answer is because every single person is walking around with this gaiva. The gaiva of ani v'afsioid, koichi v'oitzimyoni oseli esachayel hazeh. And you have to get to that akor and you have to ingrain it, not once a month. Every day you make a proclamation, do! Recognize ki Hashem Hu Elokim. Hu Asanu V'lo Yanachnu. It's not me, it's not I don't make anything. It's only the Eibishter. This is the Teva, and this is what the Ramban says. All the Nisim of Yitzias Mitzrayim showed us who is the controller of every single thing in the world. That everything that happens is an S. And Rabbi Yerucham writes, this is the most important thing that you're supposed to get from Pesach. The most important thing is not to see the Rebbeinu Shem Zakol Yochol and he makes Nisin Gluyim. It's realizing Al Nisecha, Al Nifloisecha, Al Toimesecha, Shebechol Eis. To realize it's not you, but everything that happens in your life is the Eibishter doing it, and the Teva of an Adam is the opposite. The Teva is you walk around with Gaivim, and this is what happened in the end of the second Bayis. A Bayis Sheni, they were walking around with Gaivim. I'm like I have a tremendous Gaivim, and that makes me step on you and Sinas Chinam, and that's what created, and we got thrust into the mucker of the Tumah of Ani V'Hafsi Oid, which is Esau and Amalek, which they are the ones that personify this. Now, we start off our Seder with a broad invitation. And we never do this. And once a year we come to Pesach by night and we give an extended invitation to anybody who can come into my house to partake in the Suda. I come and I say to you, Kol dichvin yese v'yecho, Kol ditzvich yese v'yivsach. Why do we do that when we start our Seder? And if you want to just give an invitation, so now you give an invitation 3 weeks in advance, and you give an invitation. A guy starts a Seder with an invitation. What's the sense in that? What is the purpose of that? And then there's another strange thing. The night Pashtus is dedicated for Yitzias Mitzrayim. This is the avoide. And you have to work on yourselves that we ourselves are going out of Mitzrayim tonight. Not just that the Eibishter took out Bnei Esau. Nor every door has to be realized. It's like they today, Rosh and Rambam Ato, are going out from Mitzrayim. But then we do something strange. We start our Seder with a totally different nusach. We say, Oshat Hocha, the Shon Abo, Ba'ardi Yisrael. Oshat Hocha, Neba'avdi, we're going to be the Shon Abo B'nei Chayrim. At the end of the conclusion, the Sefer, it's L'shon Abo B'Yerushalayim. Why are we getting off a tangent? If the whole Yisoid of the night is Mitzvah Sipra Yitzias Mitzrayim, why is it that we cloak everything in this and we talk all about Geulah Seder in the beginning of the Seder and in the end of the Seder? What's the concept? What's the meaning with that? And the answer, I believe, is as follows. You know what the Yisoid of Golus Mitzrayim was? This is in Chazal, it's Medrashim. The Shoyrus of Chazal was the Sinas Chinam of the Ache Yosef. We went down to Mitzrayim because there was Sina by the brothers of Yosef. In other Midrashim it says because Yosef spoke Lashon Hora on his brothers. So the Shoyrus of the Golus Mitzrayim was on account of Sinas Chinam and because of Lashon Hora. That was the Shoyrus of the Golus of Mitzrayim. There's a Medrash, Rashi touches on it a little bit. Moshe Rabbeinu was wondering, why are we so long in Golus? Why did Klal Yisrael suffer that they have to be in Golus? And Moshe didn't understand it. And then he saw there's Lashon Hora amongst Eden. And he says, Ochein noi lehadover. He heard there's Lashon Hora, and he says, you know something, I'm afraid we're not going to ever get out of Golus. Because there was a Shoyrish of Sinas Chinam and Lashon Hora, and he sees Yidden are speaking Lashon Hora, and they're not friendly to one another. So how did we get out of Mitzrayim? In the Medrash it says that when we went out of Mitzrayim, nobody talked Lashon Hora. They eradicated Lashon Hora from Klal Yisrael, and b'schus that there was no Lashon Hora. There's other Chazal, and the Goyim learns it into the Psukim, that Klal Yisrael had a mitzvah to do chesed with one another. They gave kelim to one another. When they borrowed, not just they borrowed from the Mitzrayim, they borrowed from one Yid from another Yid. Why? And nobody spoke Lashon Hora. This was part of the process of Geulah. And it says in Chazal, when anybody borrowed, a guy came to you to borrow something, nobody came out and says, how are you giving that guy? He's a guy that you can't trust him. Maybe they start speaking Lashon Hora on the guy. Maybe he doesn't like the guy. Nobody, a 1 year process, state in Chazal, they worked on the last year, there was no Lashon Hora, and there was no Sina, They worked on doing chesed with one another. And this was the shoirish of why Klal Yisrael were zoiched to go out of Mitzrayim. They went out of Mitzrayim because they were masakin the Sina and they were masakin the Lashon Hara. You know, there's two Tonet Ve'eliyos. The Tonet Ve'eliyos says in one place, there was one mitzvah that Klal Yisrael had in Mitzrayim that was worth more than who knows how many mitzvahs. In one place, Tonet Ve'eliyos writes it was worth more than 100 of our mitzvahs. What was that specific mitzvah? So it says as follows. They got together unified. Ba'aguda achas. There was harmony amongst Klal Yisrael. V'korsu bris sheyasu gmilas chasodim zeh im zeh. And they made a bris, they're going to do chesed with one another. And because they did chesed, and because they had Abba ve'achme with one another, that's why we married. And the Tonet Ve'eliyos brings out, this is a pasuk in Shmuel. In Shmuel it says, Mi ka'amcha Yisrael go echod b'oretz, asher holchu Moshe ve'Aaron liftis lo la'om. And that's why Hashem did the Nisim. So it's brought down in the psukim that the schus, that Klal Yisrael went out of Mitzrayim is because we became unified. A goy echad. We did chesed. We made sure to be a good achas. This was the shoirish of why we went on in Golus. Now the emes is, even though we did make a tikkun on it, but it wasn't a full, complete tikkun. There was still left shoroshim of the Sina of Achi Yosef and the Lashon Hara. And this is brought out in Medrash and Mishlei. There's brought down in Chazal that Klal Yisrael are still suffering because of the Sina of the Achi Yosef when they were down the Machi Yosef. It says, the Meshichochme teaches a psukim, but we say this in Yom Neroim. Ka'tosochon leYisrael u'mochalon l'shifte Yeshurim b'chol dor v'dor. What does it mean, the words mochalon l'shifte Yeshurim b'chol dor v'dor? So he explains, mochalon l'shifte Yeshurim is referring to chatoim bein onam l'chaveiroi. Yom Kippur has to be mechaper and chatoim bein onam l'chaveiroi. L'shmochalon l'shifte Yeshurim, that chet that was in the shvatim of Klal Yisrael is there b'chol dor v'dor. There's a medrash in Mishlei. Every door, the Rebbe Shalom gives an oynesh for the Sina that we have, and he adds on a little bit from the first Sina. So that first Sina, we think maybe the Arugi Malchus took care of it completely, and it's brought down the Chazal that also wasn't a Tikkun Gomer. And afterwards, the Doiris Sahab, the Tzaddikim could suffer because of the Sinas Chinam, like the Asor Arugi Malchus. So there's a concept that the Sina is continuing on, and we have to make a tikkun on that Sina that came from Yitzias Mitzrayim, and we have to now, every door has to make a tikkun on that Sina that we can go out of Mitzrayim every door. This is the arbit of what it means to go through a night of Pesach. Now I'm going to share with you a beautiful Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai of Yosef Chaim says, why do we make two tefillas on Leil Pesach? He says because the Golus and the Geulah revolved around tefillah. The Golus started from Vayitpulu HaKsoines. When Klal Yisrael was matbul the Ksoines B'dam, this was the beginning of the Golus of Mitzrayim. It's brought down in Chazal like that. That the start of the Golus was when they were toivel in the dam of the dam of the Sawyer. The Gemar of the Geulah came when the Klal Yisrael was lakachtem agudas Esau utevaltem b'dam asher b'saf, which the Medrash says agudas Esau signifies achdus in Klal Yisrael. So there were two tefillas. It's cloaked in two tefillas. The beginning of the tefillah was referring to the scene of Klal Yisrael, the period of Klal Yisrael. The Gemar was v'tevaltem b'dam asher b'sof. So Rabbi Yosef Chaim explains that Leil Pesach we have to recognize what is the shoirish of the Golus of Mitzrayim and what we're trying to work on to get out of that Golus of Mitzrayim. And that is just like them. They worked on to get rid of the Sinas Chinam. We too have to go and work on getting rid of our Sinas Chinam. Now there's a Meshuna Dike Goyen. The Goyen has a lot of pshotim, how to be masber manishtana, but we're going to share with you one Meshuna Dike Goyen on manishtana. And he says, you know what the question of manishtana is? Laila refers to Golus. Chazal in the Psukim, when it talks about Golus, it's Laila. Geulah is boiker. Geulah is day. Now the question that we ask Dr. Goyen is, why is this Golus so different than all the other Golus in the Klal Yisrael went through? All the Golus in the Klal Yisrael went through were short-lived. This Golus is continuing and continuing, and the Goyen says, this is our question. Why is this Golus continuing endless? Now listen to the Goyen. He learns that the first manishtana is the teretz to the kasha. We say as a shebechol haleilas anu oichlin chometzu matzah halayla hazeh kulei matzah. Sagt the Goyen hazeh. You know what chometz means? Chometz means sholem, and matzah means rivalry, fighting, bickering. The lashon of nitzu in the Torah, there's a lashon nitzim, that Moshe saw they were nitzim. It's brought down many times in the Torah, a lashon of nitza, and nitza symbolizes Dr. Goyen Mohammed, fighting. So in other Golusim, there was taka some fighting and there was some matzah. Halai lo hazeh kuloi matzah Dr. Goyen. This night, the whole mahus of what we are is meriva, machloikes, sineh. This is why the Golus of the Goyen is, this is what we say in the beginning of our Seder. We bring out that you want to know why we're in Golus all this time? Realize why you're in Golus. The reason why you're in Golus is because it's kulei matzah. It's matzah meriva. It's a fighting world. Now there's a strange minig in Leil Pesach. We eat eggs in Leil Pesach. Now why do we eat an egg? The Ramah brings a tam and he says azay. Zeicher lavelis. We eat an egg because an egg symbolizes avelis. So Zoktin Ramah, what does that mean? What shaykhs does it have to eat a bay at night? Zeicher lavelis. So he says the word is azay. Leil Pesach comes out the same as Leil Tisha B'Av. In the cheshbon of the year, whenever the first day of Pesach falls, that's going to be, and this is a pasuk in Eicha. Is biani bamroirim zeh yom tefrishin, says the Medrash. And Hirvani Lano, the bitterness of Tisha B'Av is coming from the bitterness of Pesach. The Goyen brings this Medrash as a mocker to the Ramah. That what we go through in the first night of Pesach. So what the meaning of this Medrash, I'm about to show you to explain this Medrash, that what we're trying to bring out is, you know what's going to be decisive if we're going to get out of this korban or not? How we conduct our Seder the first night. If we're going to make sholem, if we're going to get rid of the machloikas, if we're going to get rid of all these sinah from amongst us, then we won't have to go through a Tisha B'Av again. But if you're not going to do that, and you're going to let it pass by, and not get desire to change, and to do tikkun, and to do that, this is the yisoid of the arbit of the Leil Pesach. And this, we believe, is why the two Golusin of Golus today is really intertwined with Golus Mitzrayim. The Golus now is a Golus of Sinas Chinam, Seif Ma'isheni, was Golus of Sinas Chinam. But it really started already from the first original Golus. There's a Beis HaLevi that's masber, that the Golus of what happened later on are all intertwined with the first Golus of Mitzrayim. And that's why we talk about the Golus of Asida and the Golus here, and it's all the same Yisoid. The side is to get rid of the sinas chinam, to get rid of machloikes, to make sure that we don't have any more of this rivalry, nor get rid of your gaiva, get rid of believing koichi voitz and yodi osali asachayil azeh, that everybody walks around with that yetzorah of koichi voitz and yodi. What do? We do exactly what the Bnei Yisrael did in Mitzrayim. We publicly proclaim, my house is open to everybody. Korsu brish yasu chesed zeim zeh. I'm ready to do for others. And I'm ready to show that I'm living together Geulah achas with the whole world. This is what I still avek in the beginning of the Seder. Kol dichvin yesev yechol, kol ditzrich. This is what Klal Yisrael did over there. And then I say, you know that, if I can do that, and I can make it not just a proclamation, nor to internalize it, and to live in that fashion, then I can be zoichet to the Geulah Asida. So tonight, the night of Pesach, is B'Nissan Nigalu, B'Nissan Asida Nigol. Nissan was a zman that was mesugol for Geulah. Nissan was a zman for Isalis. Nissan was a zman to get to a level of getting rid of your gaiva, getting rid of your feelings against other people, nor to feel an ahava v'achve v'sholem v'reyes to other Yidden. When we can show the Ribono Shel Olam that we're not Geulah achas, that we're ready to make that Tvalta B'dam Asher B'sof. We make two tefillas. We start off with the tefillah of Sinah, and it's all to bring out to us to recognize that you know something, and then we eat an egg, and the egg is to remind us that you don't want to get out, you want to get out. Oh, you know, it's going to be told you what you're going to do in the night. If you're going to really live it, and you're going to feel for a tzvei yid, and you're going to make sure that you feel another yid pain and simcha, then we can get out. And this is maybe a part of the test that the Rosh was making the matzav in Eretz Yisrael so long. Besides that, they're supposed to stand up against the koifrim, and this is a tremendous nisayon that so many people are fooled and don't understand what this is. And people think, oh, they're the ones that are making great things for us. This Zionism is doing wonders. Zionism is what's the whole shoirish of why the Eibishter put Amalek in the head of Eretz Yisrael in order that we should fight them and recognize that they're koifrim. They believe in Aniva Avsioid, and we have to fight that. That's what it is. And they're fighting to show it to us. They're fighting the Bnei Torah and realize that what their Metzias is. Their Metzias is Kvira and everything about Kvira. But recognize the way to what we have to do is support Torah, show an ahava v'achva to Torah. That's what the arbit of Yidden are in this Kufas Hashoneh. Now is the time the Ribono Shel Olam wants us to stand up strong, ba'achdus with one another, not the achdus with koifrim, nor achdus with shloimei amunah Yisrael, to stand up and recognize that we have to be together and not have machloikas and Klal Yisrael. Some say like this and some say like this, but to recognize that we all have to be able to come together, and when we will come together and we will be ba'achdus, we'll be zeicha b'korev to be as Mashiach Tzidkenu b'meir b'yameinu.
Shem Nege should have die ganze Jahr like to get the gas you got to Yeshivas Shlit for the gewaltige share. Whoever wants a copy from the share, Mr. Shem Friday, if you bring a flash drive, I have a copy for you, Mr. Shem. Come on, Mr. Shem, Rabbi Smith.